Nando, how are you today, sir?
Doing well, doing well. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to really cover this morning was the fact that you're like a bottle of wine in the way that during this World Cup, there are a lot of people standing in front of wine that have no idea what the wine is all about. And soccer is the same thing. They're watching the game, but they don't get the game, but you do, and your podcast is the answer.
Hell yeah. That's right.
As a third degree black belt in martial arts, the one thing that my master always told me, you've got to understand the history. Well, Nando, you are doing it. You are giving us the history of the game.
That's right. And it's a very rich and illustrious history with all kinds of legendary moments, also some fun moments, also some tragic moments. It's got a little bit of everything.
How do you decide where you're going to go with each episode? Because there is so much out there for you to choose from.
Yeah, I do a combination of kind of iconic moments, an example being the Zidane headbutt. You've probably seen it. Everyone kind of that's even vaguely familiar with soccer hasn't seen or known about the Zidane headbutt. So we'll give you kind of the backstory on that and go a little deeper on something like that you definitely heard about, but maybe don't know the full story. But then we also do like really fun ones, kind of like the time that the Bulgarian national team used a little bit of light illegal immigration to qualify for the 1994 World Cup, a tournament they shouldn't have even been there for. They should have been disqualified for, illegally immigrating into France to play a qualifying game. And then they got to the semifinals of that World Cup. So yeah, but of some less known stories and some more better known stories.
Nando, that Bulgaria story is a great story, and you've got to give them a big kudos here, and more than a golf clap, because they were creative in making sure that they got into those games.
Yeah, they really were. I mean, if your listeners don't know, I mean, the back then it was you needed a visa to travel within Europe, and the Bulgarian Federation screwed up the paperwork for two of their best players, and they snuck into the country in the trunk of their teammate's car who played on the border of France and Germany, and whisked them across the border and then snuck into the country to play the game. And then one of the guys who snuck in ended up scoring the goal that qualified them for the World Cup. So it was all worth it.
That to me is all the drama. Isn't that why we watch Netflix and Hulu? Is because we want that, that big old cliffhanger at the end?
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this story was turned into a Netflix miniseries at some point, for sure.
So now, even today, there's a lot of controversy and conspiracy and things going on. I mean, the United States with the Iranian flag. How far do you think this is going to go?
Yeah, I mean, well, it seemed like it was all kind of hugs and kisses after the game, after the actual match. I mean, I think the players were kind of probably like annoyed by that, and that they it's something that they didn't want to have to deal with, and they just wanted to play the game, and and they probably see the Iranian players that, what I mean, whatever they feel about the Iran's regime, it's not the players' fault, and so I think that they felt that, and you saw after the game the images of some of the American players kind of consoling the Iranian players who had just been knocked out. So I think it's a matter of like, the federations and the players being kind of disconnected a little bit. Yeah.
One of the greatest things about your podcast, which is called the best soccer podcast in the world, is the fact that it's bilingual. How are you doing this and capturing the emotion for each one of the episodes? I mean, it's in English and then it's also in Latin.
Yeah, well, it's I mean, it's I'm bilingual. I figured, why the hell not? We're reporting these stories. We're reporting these stories anyway. We might as well expand our audience and bring it to more people. What we did was we would report the stories, and then depending on what we needed for each language, we would translate, and then I would track both episodes, and then we would hire actors to dub some of the interviews that we did. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I gotta say, I mean, it was something that I've always wanted to do. I always thought it was worth doing if you happen to speak both languages. So yeah, I did it.
Well, there's got to be an app out there somewhere, Nando, that will do this for you so that you don't have to do double shows.
Oh, I mean, maybe I should start a service. I think I could probably make a lot of money. I Nando or something, or Nander, and then just sell this service to people who need some quick translation.
You know, what's fascinating about you and what you do in your everyday world is the fact that your background is politics, sports, and culture. Is that not the game of soccer? Every bit of that is in that game.
Oh yeah, I mean there was a Albert Camus, the famous philosopher, said that all he knows about life and morality he learned from soccer. I mean soccer is everything. I mean it wraps up the deep-seated cultural identities, but also politics, religion, the famous kind of the derby in Scotland between Celtic and Glasgow, famously kind of Catholics versus Protestants, and it's rivalries that go back hundreds of years almost, and so you get a little bit of everything if you get into the world of soccer.
The superstars of soccer are so different than those in the superstars of the NFL, such as Tom Brady. I don't see him having such an emotional connection to the people as a soccer player does, because when they lose a game, they have to go back home, and they know they didn't represent their country that well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the weird things about American sports is that the national teams, for example, like Team USA in basketball is not as big of a deal as, say, like if you're a Lakers fan or a Knicks fan. You'd much rather the Knicks win the championship than Team USA win gold again. You know what I mean? Or the World Championship of basketball, which most Americans probably don't even watch. But in soccer, these international tournaments are so wonderful. As tainted as they are by the kind of corrupt leadership of the organization of it, like FIFA and all that stuff. But the actual national teams and the players, they play basically for free. Sometimes they get a little bit of a bonus here and there, but it's not why they do it. It's not their kind of day job. It is really representing their country. The countries just get all wrapped into it. Everything kind of stops and all eyes are on them. And it's really something else. It's just different when they play for their national team. Like you see the emotions when they score a goal for their country versus when they score a goal for their club team, in which they might just be, they change teams all the time. They're probably not even from that city. It's a day job. Whereas the World Cup and all these international tournaments are something a little bit more emotional.
Aren't you amazed, though, about how the world does come together during the World Cup? Why do we have to wait 4 years for something like this to happen? Because, I don't see people doing this for the Olympics anymore. But, man, when that World Cup comes on, we all come together as one.
Yeah, actually, FIFA is trying to make it every 2 years. I suspect they might do that. But there's something special about having to wait,
Yeah.
There's something that it makes it a little bit more special when you don't get it all the time. If you get it all the time, then it doesn't feel as special when it comes around. If they had it every year, it'd just be like another thing that you have in the background. But the fact that it's this quadrennial thing, and it really allows kind of the whole world to stop, and it makes it feel bigger and more significant than it would if it was like every summer.
Is it my imagination, or is there a lot of focus being put on the World Cup stickers this year? Because there's a lot of models that are posing with these stickers on, and people are collecting them. I mean, it's like the big deal, dude.
Yeah, that's a thing that I used to do when I was a kid. The World Cup stickers. That's like that's a throwback. It's kind of like it's kind of like collecting baseball cards, but it was a thing that you did as a kid every 4 years, and then you had your little World Cup book, and were able to keep it for forever. It's a kind of cool tradition.
All right, let's dig in deep here, because when I say that there's been controversy inside these World Cup games and stuff like that, there's also been something very haunting in Brazil. Do you really think that stadium is cursed?
A little bit. I actually think it's cursed for more personal reasons. I'm originally from Spain, and I was at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. And I watched Spain get eliminated at that stadium in Maracanã. It's the biggest stadium in the world. It's 100,000 plus people. And it's just iconic in that probably the most famous upset in World Cup history was when Uruguay beat a heavily favored Brazil team at home in that stadium, in front of over 100,000 screaming Brazilian fans. And Uruguay is a tiny nation of less than 3 million people. Brazil is a nation of 200 million plus. So it was just like a real David versus Goliath, and they've never really had a happy time there. To be honest, I mean, Argentina won the Copa America there, which is their biggest rival. It seems like if I were them, I'd play in a different stadium. To be fair.
But see, that's the mystique of it all. To me, that's what's selling tickets, because people will go. I mean, I know so many Americans that have traveled to the current World Cup, and man, what they're posting on Facebook is just mind blowing. But they're there, and they're taking us there with them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been to 2 World Cups. I was in South Africa in 2010. I was in Brazil in 2014, which is really special. I mean, Brazil is the soccer nation. They've won 5 World Cups, more than any other nation, and it really is kind of the bleeding heart of global soccer, and the most iconic team by far. And there's just nothing quite like it. I mean, I remember being there and hanging out with like fans of Bosnia Herzegovina, which is like a relatively new country, and they were telling me this is the happiest moment. They qualifying for the World Cup for the first time was like the happiest moment in their nation's history, and like they were just like so excited to be there. There's just nothing quite like it.
Something is coming out of these World Cup games, and I hope that it doesn't turn into anything bad. But the flag from Mexico, where the player from Argentina has been accused of kicking the flag. Oh, dude, I hope this does not turn into a mess.
I mean, I watched the video, and I honestly think he didn't mean it. Like, it wasn't like he didn't do it as a gesture. Like, he just probably
Right.
There was a bunch of flags on the floor, and it feels like he just kind of stepped on it by accident. It wasn't. I don't think it was. I mean, it's very out of character for him. Isn't Lionel Messi probably the best player in the world, one of the best players of all time, certainly the best player of the last 25 years. And he's just like, it's very out of character. He would never really do that. I mean, he has no real beef against Mexico. I think it's kind of like a fake controversy. And I say this, like, piping in from Mexico right now. And, they go mad over the World Cup here. So I think that the fact that they're kind of struggling right now, the emotions are running high, and they're looking for anything to sort of hang their hat on.
Well, we have finally reached the elimination rounds and stuff like that. I mean, do you think we're still maybe a couple of games away from seeing a true king of the soccer field this year?
Well, I think that honestly Brazil, it looks incredibly strong, even though their biggest superstar Neymar got hurt in the opening game and will probably miss a few games in this World Cup. But they just look so solid, and they look like so imposing. But in terms of individual players, it's still up for the taking. I mean, Kylian Mbappe from France is just an amazing talent, just so much speed, and he really has taken a leadership role within that team. They've won the last World Cup. He was there, but he wasn't quite the man yet. Now he really is, and scored 2 goals in their last game to fire them to victory, and it looks like he's just due for an unbelievable tournament.
Well, the guy that scored yesterday for the United States. I mean, I was shocked to learn this morning when I read the headlines that he's in a lot of pain, and that he's been in pain, and he's trying to get through the storm.
Yeah, he's been playing hurt. I mean, that was a really gutsy goal because he put his body on the line. I mean, the goalkeeper was coming out, and they collided pretty hard, and I thought it was a really beautiful goal, and it was well worked, and he really is. I mean, Pulisic is just like he's very, very good, and he gives the United States just like that bit of a difference maker, which in soccer makes all the difference because it's such a low scoring game. So to have a guy who can make something happen in one moment is just so invaluable, and he really is the guy. The fact that he's playing through pain just says it all, really.
The biggest question of the day, and I'm sure a lot of people may ask you this as you do your tour today, is the fact that will soccer ever be an ugly man's sport again? Because I mean, it sure looks like there's a lot of pretty people out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, right now they're very well groomed. I mean, I don't know, maybe the new Gen Zers are a little bit more ironic and nihilistic, and maybe they'll go back to the mullets and big mustaches and things like that of the days of yore, of the days when I was growing up. If you look at the 1990 U.S. World Cup team, which is the team that qualified for the World Cup in Italy for the first time in 50 years back in 1990, every single guy on the team, I'm not exaggerating, every single guy on the team had a mullet. It's really astounding.
Dude, I'm proud of you for this podcast. We got to do everything we can to keep pushing this out there for the non-believers of soccer to find out why we should be all together on this. And it's taking people like yourself to educate the people. And I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I mean, we called it the best soccer podcast in the world. I'm not sure if it actually is, but the listeners are gonna have to listen to find out if it is, because it might be. I don't know.
Well, Gene Simmons said.
Find out.
Gene Simmons says, if you don't think it is, then it's not. So therefore, the fact that you are saying it's the best soccer podcast in the world means it is the best soccer podcast.
It absolutely is.
Absolutely.
It absolutely is.
You be brilliant today,
Hell
okay?
Yeah. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Take it easy.